going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. This is our top 10 hottest selling comics of the week, our weekly video series brought to you by PopCultureZone.com. Before we get into this week's top 10 books, don't forget to check out PopCultureZone.com's. Their links are below. Check them out if you're interested in getting your hands on some awesome exclusive and incentive variants at affordable costs, CGC slabs, and of course all different kinds of pop culture items, including toys and statues. And if you're buying raw books, they ship at a flat rate fee of only $4.99. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they still hold a 100% customer feedback rating with over 8,000 ratings this year alone. Those links are below. Check them out and make sure you follow them on eBay as well. All right, everyone, this is Props or Flops. For those that don't know, we take last week's Cover Price's top 10 hottest comics list. We take the 3 most interesting books off of that list, and then I crunch the numbers over this last current week, and we compare the numbers from when they hit the top 10 to where they're at right now, and I give you all a props or a flops for that book. So we're going to do what we usually do, and that's briefly count down this top 10 list to give you all an idea of what was popping 7 days ago. And we're going to start at number 10 with Strange Tales, number 158. This is the first full appearance of the Living Tribunal. We got number 9, Strange Tales 157. This is the first cameo appearance of the Living Tribunal. Number 8 is Captain Carter. Number 1, the animation variant. It's a 1 in 25 variant. Number 7, we are all hit to this book recently. This is New Avengers number 7, the first appearance of the Illuminati. Number 6, Thor 1. This is the first cover appearance of Jane Foster's Thor. This book is a carryover from last week when so many of her, all those Thor books hit the top 10. I believe it was 8 out of 10. Crazy, right? All right, coming in at number 5 is Incredible Hercules, number 120. This is the first appearance of Kleiben, if I say that right. Sometimes these names, I apologize if my pronunciation is off. Number 4, we got Captain Carter, number 1 there. I don't know about you guys. I like this cover better, man. I do. Number 3, we got Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. Number 1, this is the first appearance of a ton of Jedis whose names I am definitely not going to try to pronounce. Number 2, we got Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Number 7, guys, this is the first full appearance of El Dorado and the second appearance of El Muerto, right? And then coming in at number 1, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Number 6, the first appearance of El Muerto. And of course, we got that casting announcement from Sony. Bad Bunny going to be playing this character in a standalone film. That was the top 10, folks. Which 3 books did I pick? A lot of good stuff to choose from. We're going to go right in to my number 3 pick, and that is Strange Tales 158, folks. The first full appearance of the Living Tribunal. I like this book. Let's go over these numbers, and we're going to see if I give this book a props or flops. You see a lot of red there, so we're going to cover that first. Now, when this book made the top 10 list 7 days ago, it had 140% upward trend in sales with a high 8.5 sale of $850. This week, as of today, it had a high 8.5 of $740. I do believe that was 2 days ago that another 8.5 sold. And of course, it was the only 8.5 that sold this week, whereas that 850 was the only one that sold last week. This is a Silver Age book, so you're not going to find too many on the market at once, especially in a higher grade like that. Now, that's a 13% decrease in value. I always say this, folks, when you look at just singular sales or high sales, always take it with a grain of salt, especially looking at the Silver Age book. There's not many on the market at any given time. So last week when that book sold for $850, all it took, I probably sound like a broken record, all it took is 1 or 2 people really bidding that book up saying, I want it, I want it, I want it. Somebody came away with it. And that one person that came away with it is off the market. And now, maybe you just had a couple people that weren't willing to pay just that quite as much, or maybe just weren't sitting at eBay, as that bidding war, as that listing was coming down to the final seconds of the auction. So you have one that sells for a little bit less. And that's why when I talk about fair market values, it's always good to gauge a fair market value as a rolling average. Because just because the last sale sold for $850 doesn't mean that you need to pay $850 the next time an 8.5 of this book pops up for sale. So you got to give some wiggle room, right? And you got to not let that instantaneous gratitude of needing it now allow you to get out of your comfort zone of what you're willing to pay for these books. Now let's look at average raws. And I always say average raws take with a grain of salt too, because it doesn't pertain to grade. It's just whatever is on the market, high grade, low grade, mid grade. You add up all of the sales dollars and you divide it by the units sold. Last week when it hit the top 10, the average was 164. This week, 134. So that's an 18% decrease in value. Now, I'm going to make it extremely clear here. This decrease in values, whether for the graded 8.5s or for the average raw, is not an indicator of this book already cooling off. I'm going to tell you that right now. All it could mean, especially for this average raw, is that maybe there was one or two higher grades that sold last week next to this week, and it could have skewed that average value up $10, $20, $30. That's all it really takes, because again, there's not that many on the market. I believe for both weeks, I think there was under 10 sold each week. And that goes to show you that it is a Silver Age book. It's more scarce than, say, if there was speculation around a modern book and that got hyped up and you got all these people selling their copies on eBay. So props or flops? Well, let's add some context. The reason why this book made the list this last week is because there was that last trailer and people were speculating that there was an image in the background that looked to be the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal was already Easter egged and hinted at in the first Doctor Strange film. I've been talking about this book for a long time. Since I talked about this book is probably about doubled in value. Thinking about what I paid for it now and what I've been looking at it at over the last probably 2.5 years. I think that the Living Tribunal is going to show up in the MCU. I do at some point in time. This is a Silver Age book, a Silver Age key. I've talked about Strange Tales being an undervalued run with a lot of great first appearances. I have to give this book props, folks. I have to give it props. Now, just because I'm giving it props doesn't mean you have to go rush out and buy it. I'm not here to tell you to buy anything. I'm just giving you guys my personal opinion on how I evaluate all of these books. And the reason why I give this book props is this. This book to me has not seen its short-term ceiling, let alone its long-term ceiling and that long-term growth. Now, I will caution everyone, whenever there's a rumor or speculation based on a trailer or a casting or a live action, be very careful with it. Like right now, if I didn't have this book and I wanted to buy this book, because we got this little, Easter egg, I may wait on it, because as you guys can see, there's already possibly a little bit of a dip in value, but like I said, it could just be a couple outliers. So there's no real need to rush into this. Have patience, and I'm sure that you could find a good, solid deal on this book still. And it is of my humble opinion that if we get this character in the MCU, this book is going to spike. And long-term wise, I think this is a very solid long-term investment if you could still get it at even prices for where it's going for right now. And again, what I usually advise is go after raws, because raw copies can save you money. That's just what I would do though, and that's just my humble advice. So props to this Strange Tales 158. I love seeing Silver Age books on this list for the most part. All right, my number 1-2 pick, folks, is Star Wars Tales of the Jedi. So this is a fun one. I recently had this book on a Key Comic Books to invest in for, was it under 50 or under 25? I think it was under 25. Now, the reason why this book made the list is because there was a Tales of the Jedi animated anthology announced, and we haven't got much information on it. It's gonna come in the near future on what the details are behind this project, but this has been confirmed. Now let's look at what it did. 241% upward trend in sales when it hit the top 10, with the high 9.8 of 285. This week's high 9.8 sold for 350, so that's a 23% increase in value. But remember what I said. 350, that means I got to pay 350 or more. Be patient, be careful if you're in the market for this book. Last week's average raw was 34. This week's was 30. That's a 12% decrease. So again, you got to take these numbers with a grain of salt. Just because you see a little bit of decrease in the average raw, you saw an increase in the 9.8. So I would evaluate this book as a book that is still trending positively, kind of in the same direction as it was the week that it hit the top 10. Now, this is the first appearance of a bunch of new Jedis. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to even try to butcher all of their names. But I think anything Star Wars is solid right now. So do I give this book a props or a flops? Man, see, I am very, very cautious about this book right now. But I still give this book a props. I give this book a props because I think this book has the ability to continue to increase for the short term, even if it cools off. Maybe if I don't know when we're going to get another announcement. I don't know when we're going to get details. But if you look at the way that Star Wars books are trending, there's not a lot of down period between like an initial announcement next to like castings or trailers and so forth. Now, this is an animated series, so you got to be careful with looking at the animated series next to the live action. There is a different amount of FOMO, so to say. There is a different amount of demand, a different type of demand going through those certain phases of announcement, casting, trailer, and all those things. So just be very careful with this book. It's still, if you're looking for it raw, it's low risk. I had this book on a 25 and under. You can see the average raw now is going for about 30 to 34. So it's picking up. Again, be patient. This is a more modern book. Try to find a decent high grade instead of paying all that money for a 9.8 if you're just interested in having this book and you're on a budget. But if you're made of money, do what you do. Take the risk of, going after those 9.8s for 285, 350, whatever it may be. But like I always say, be willing to take those risks. Don't burn yourself. Know what you're getting into. If you walk into a casino with $350 in your pocket, you got to know that you're willing to have the chance of coming out of that casino with no money in your pocket. You may come out with $250 in your pocket with a little bit of loss, but you might double your money. You never know. I think that's what you're still doing with the 9.8 of this book. But for a raw copy, as a Star Wars fan, if I can find one under $25 in a decent higher grade, I would still do that. 35, 30, I may wait a little bit and just see if it cools off before we get another official announcement. But that's just me. You guys do what you will. I'm loving what Star Wars is doing with all their properties right now, and I think it's going to keep bringing eyes onto these books. All right, folks, my number one pick's coming up, but before we get into it, I want to remind all of you that you could save 10% off of your comic book supplies using the code JOURNOS if you visit bcwsupplies.com, folks. You can use this code as many times as you want. It never expires. That link is in the description below. But with that being said, let's get into my number one book. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6. Now, guys, I hope you watched my video that I did last week. Right when this book hit the top 10, I came out and made a video about it. Issue 6 and 7. Let's look at these numbers and then I'll give you my opinion. 2,758% upward trend in sales. Wow. That may be the highest percent I have ever seen doing these top 10s, and I've been doing these top 10s for 2 years. Crazy, folks. Check this out. Last week's high 9.8 when it made the top 10, not available. This week's not available. Why? Because there was no 9.8s on the census as of April 30th. And to be quite honest, there was no graded comics of any grade as of April 30th. Now, last week's Raw, when it hit the top 10, average Raw that is, $90 average Raw. And I didn't calculate the $250 newsstand sale. This week's average Raw, $43. That is a 52% decrease in value over the last week since it made the top 10. Now, I looked at all the numbers. That's not just a couple outliers, folks. This book in general is already trending a lot lower than it was last week. Now, like I said, if you saw my video, you probably know what I'm going to say about this book. First appearance of El Muerto. Guys, although I think that this movie, because of the Sony announcement casting Bad Bunny to play El Muerto in a standalone film, I'm not hating on that movie. I actually read this run, and I think it was a great story. I think this character has a great cultural mythos behind him. I think that Sony could do a decent movie with this, but I still got to give this book a flops, folks. And I'll try to reiterate it shortly and not do another 15-minute take on it like I did in that video. El Muerto is a character that Sony has the property rights to that can be taken and be done. It could be a standalone film. It doesn't even have to connect to Venom or Spider-Man or anything or the MCU. And Sony can make a good movie about it. But here's my concerns. Sony struggles with making decent movies. And even if they're decently entertaining, they don't help the comic books related to them. Morbius got a lot of bad rap. I thought it was a decent film. I was entertained, but that's it. You had a late Silver Age key in Spider-Man 101 that saw a dip after the film. That's a pretty much I would say a blue chip key in my humble opinion long term. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But the movie didn't help it out and it dipped some. Carnage. Amazing Spider-Man 361 dipped a good amount. And in that book, you can almost call that a more of a copper age to modern blue chip key for the long term. But it dipped a good amount. It'll keep going up just because of the inherent properties of that book, no matter a movie spec. But if Sony films with Marvel characters can hurt those books, even in the short term, of books that are already considered established keys. This is literally a book that nobody cared about. Nobody sent this book in to get graded. Nobody was buying this book. And when they were buying it for $2. If you watch my video, you will see the few sales that were on the census over the last year, the sales census that is. They were selling for 99 cents to $2. Nobody cared about this book. And you already see this book drop on average of a 52% drop. So already those folks that were paying above $100 plus for this book, they're probably already getting burned. And that's why I said what I said in that video. Now, like I said, I think that Sony can make a decent movie with this, but even if they do, I don't think it's enough to bring people into this character to such an extent that they're going to be wanting to go flock after this book. Now, I think a lot of the hype last week too was because of the Bad Bunny casting. Bad Bunny is a reggaeton artist that is extremely popular. And I think, people say, oh, well, he has all this following. I could assure you that at least the majority, if not 99.9% of the people that were buying this book for 50, 80, 100, 150 plus dollars, they weren't Bad Bunny fans. They were speculators and people that were trying to flip this book that thought that the Bad Bunny casting would be a cash grab and a cash out because he's such a big name. It's not working. It's not sustaining already. Big flops for this book, folks. That's all I'm going to say about it because you guys can look back on that video and hear what I have to say. I'm really curious to see what Sony can do with this character. but I just don't think this book can hold. Maybe this book won't be a $2 book anymore. Maybe, and I'm all about the cultural aspect behind this book. Like a lot of, Latina individuals can watch this film and watch this character. Similar, I'll use like Encanto, as a film that really had that rich, Latin cultural backstory, and I loved it. It was a very, very fun, enjoyable, heartwarming film. If you know anything about the El Muerto character, there's a lot of that mysticism there too, and I think it could be done right. To be quite honest, I would have rather seen the Disney handle a character like this, but we'll see, man. I don't have much faith in Sony, but even so, even if it gets people to like this character and bring him back to the comic books, I don't see this book being more than even a $20 book moving forward, and that's hard for me to believe, but we'll see. Only time will tell. But for right now, guys, like I said, people are already getting burned that bought this book last week. I'm looking forward to what this book is going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. I will be monitoring it. I suggest that you guys do too if you're interested in following it. But folks, that is the top 10 look back props or flops for this week. Let me know what you guys thought of my picks in the comments below. Let me know if you guys would have gave them props or flops as well. But before we go, as always, I got to give a huge shout out to all my Patreon members. Thank you guys so much for supporting me month after month. Trev, John, Nexus Cowboy, Verified, Kyle, Justin, Kenwick, Jordan, X11, Shelby, Rich, Tony, Larry, Michael, Alvin, Fletch, Pedro, Peter, Joe, Larissa, Sagi, Dan, and Simon. Thank you guys so much. Keep a lookout for the end of the month giveaway that I will be doing. I haven't picked out a prize yet, but stay tuned for that. If you guys are interested in becoming a Patreon member, that link is below, and it is only $3.99 a month. And of course, big shout out to all of my YouTube channel members. If you're interested in joining there, you get very similar perks for only $1.99 a month. And I will be doing another giveaway at the end of June for all of my YouTube channel members. So again, folks, thank you guys so much for watching. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Be well, and until next time.